The night hung over the city like a thick, oppressive shroud as Ethan walked down the desolate streets of New York. Tall buildings loomed on either side, their windows reflecting the eerie glow of the streetlights that flickered sporadically. A biting wind whispered through the narrow alleyways, carrying with it a sense of foreboding that seemed to seep into the very pavement beneath his feet. Ethan had always been drawn to the mysteries of the city, but tonight was different. The air was heavy with an inexplicable tension, and the usual hustle and bustle of New York had given way to an unsettling stillness. As he turned into an unfamiliar alley, the narrow passage seemed to stretch endlessly before him. A flickering neon sign at the end of the alley caught his attention. The Shadow's Den. The sign seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, casting an ominous glow on the cobblestone pavement. Intrigued and unnerved, Ethan approached the entrance, the creaking sound of his footsteps echoing in the silence. The door swung open with a ghostly creak, revealing a dimly lit interior. The air inside was thick with a musty scent, and a chilling breeze whispered through the space. As Ethan stepped further inside, the door slammed shut behind him, sealing him in darkness. The dim light revealed a decrepit bar lined with weathered stools, and a lone figure hunched over at the counter. The bartender's face was obscured by the shadows, but his presence exuded an unsettling aura. Ethan hesitated but decided to take a seat at the bar, unable to resist the curiosity that gripped him. The bartender turned, revealing hollow eyes that seemed to pierce through the darkness. "Welcome to the Shadow's Den," he muttered, a sinister grin spreading across his face. "You've entered a realm where reality and nightmares intertwine." Unnerved, Ethan tried to make sense of the cryptic words. Before he could react, the patrons seated at the far end of the bar turned to face him. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and their expressions were frozen in twisted masks of agony. The room began to warp and contort, the walls closing in around Ethan. Panicking, he stumbled backward, but the door had vanished. The air grew colder, and ghostly whispers echoed through the air, speaking of long-forgotten tragedies that had unfolded on these haunted streets. Ethan felt a hand on his shoulder, icy fingers sending shivers down his spine. He turned to find a spectral figure standing behind him, a woman in a tattered Victorian-era dress, her eyes pleading for release from an eternity of torment. She spoke of a tragic love affair that had ended in betrayal and death on these very streets. As the story unfolded, the bar transformed into a macabre stage where the shadows danced to the rhythm of the woman's sorrowful tale. The once silent patrons began to moan and wail, their spectral forms writhing in anguish. The air thickened with despair, and the room pulsated with an otherworldly energy. Desperation clawed at Ethan's chest as he realized he was trapped in a nightmarish tableau of the city's dark history. The walls seemed to close in, the spectral figures drawing nearer. He pleaded with the bartender for release, but the sinister grin remained, and the hollow eyes seemed to mock his futile attempts to escape. In a final, desperate act, Ethan shouted a name from the woman's tragic tale, hoping to break the curse that bound him to this haunted realm. The air crackled with tension, and the room fell silent. The ghostly figures retreated, their haunting cries fading into the shadows. The bartender's grin twisted into a scowl, and the door reappeared. With a rush of cold air, Ethan stumbled out into the alley, the neon sign flickering overhead. The night had returned to its oppressive stillness, and the city seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. As Ethan walked away from the Shadow's Den, he couldn't shake the feeling that the shadows of the alley still clung to him. The haunted whispers lingered in his ears, a haunting reminder that the dark history of New York streets was not easily forgotten. The city had revealed its spectral secrets, leaving Ethan to navigate the thin line between reality and nightmares for the rest of his days.